Most viewers think they understand how a family-run farm works: familiar names, generations of history, and roles that seem obvious. But on Larson Farms, one face keeps drawing attention for a reason few people stop to question. Brody didn't inherit the name, yet he's trusted with major responsibilities and shows up in moments that matter most. So, how did someone outside the family become such a key presence? Was it skill, timing, or something happening behind the scenes? Because once you start paying attention, it becomes clear there's more to his story than the videos reveal, and almost nobody is talking about it. At first glance, nothing about Brody seems unusual. On a channel like Larson Farms, built around a multi-generational Minnesota farm, viewers naturally expect to see family members running the show. That's why most people don't think twice when a new face appears in the background. But here's where it gets interesting. Brody didn't stay in the background for long. Without any dramatic introduction, Brody Barr slowly became a familiar presence. One video turns into five turns into dozens, and before viewers even realize it, he's involved in some of the farm's most important days. No big announcement, no meet the new guy moment, just quiet consistency. And on a real working farm, consistency is rarely accidental. It usually means trust has already been earned behind the scenes. Fans began noticing something else too. When high-pressure moments showed up, tight harvest windows, long days, expensive machinery, Brody often seemed right in the middle of it. That's when curiosity started building in the comment sections. People wondered how he fit into the operation and why the crew leaned on him so heavily. Because on farms like this, responsibility isn't handed out lightly. And just as viewers started connecting those dots, another subtle shift happened. People weren't just recognizing Brody anymore. They were clicking on videos because of him. The real turning point most viewers never notice is when presence turns into responsibility. It's one thing to appear in videos. It's another to be trusted when the stakes are high. And somewhere along the way, that's exactly what started happening with Brody Barr on Larson Farms. On large farming operations, timing is everything. Weather doesn't wait, equipment costs can climb into the hundreds of thousands, and a single delay can ripple across an entire season. So when someone is repeatedly placed behind major machinery or tasked with critical jobs, it quietly signals something important. This is a person the team relies on. Viewers might see tractors rolling and combines moving, but experienced eyes recognize the deeper message. Trust like that is earned, not assigned overnight. What makes Brody's rise especially interesting is how natural it felt. There was no sudden spotlight, no forced personality shift. He carried himself with the same steady, work-first attitude whether the cameras were rolling or not. That kind of calm reliability stands out, especially in an environment where pressure is just part of the daily routine. Before long, longtime viewers began picking up on the pattern. Brody wasn't just helping, he was becoming part of the engine that kept everything running. And then, something changed that made his role impossible to ignore. The moment someone's name starts appearing in video titles, you know something has shifted. Channels don't usually spotlight a person unless viewers are already responding to them. And that's exactly what began happening with Brody Barr on Larson Farms. What started as quiet consistency suddenly turned into clickable curiosity. It wasn't loud or dramatic. There was no viral explosion that pushed him into the spotlight overnight. Instead, the change happened gradually. Episodes began centering around his projects, his equipment, even major days that carried real pressure. Whether it was a long haul, a critical harvest push, or operating high-value machinery, Brody became part of the storyline rather than just someone passing through the frame. And here's the interesting part, he never looked like he was chasing attention. No over-the-top reactions, no trying to steal scenes. Just the same steady energy viewers had already grown used to. Ironically, that authenticity may have been exactly what pulled people in. In a digital world full of big personalities, someone calm and dependable can feel surprisingly refreshing. Soon, viewers weren't just watching to see what the farm would tackle next, they were watching to see what Brody would be doing. That's when you know a personality has crossed an invisible line from background help to fan favorite. But with that kind of visibility comes something else entirely: speculation. Once a person becomes familiar on a channel, even the smallest change doesn't go unnoticed. And for Brody Barr, it didn't take much to get viewers talking. A few less appearances, a shift in who was running certain equipment, or a title hinting that someone else was stepping up. Suddenly, comment sections started filling with the same question: where's Brody? Part of this reaction comes from how audiences watch YouTube. Over time, viewers build a sense of routine. They expect certain faces during big moments, especially on a channel like Larson Farms where teamwork is front and center. So when that rhythm changes, curiosity kicks in fast. Some fans assumed he was just busy off camera. Others wondered if his role had changed, and of course, a few theories stretched far beyond what anyone could actually confirm. Here's what's important. There has never been a verified public fallout or dramatic exit. Farms operate in seasons, workloads shift, and not every task makes it onto video. In real agricultural life, that's completely normal. But online, silence often invites imagination, and imagination tends to grow quickly. What's revealing, though, is how quickly people noticed. Viewers don't speculate about someone they see as replaceable. The reaction itself hinted at something bigger. Brody had quietly become part of the channel's foundation. And just as the rumor started circulating, another signal appeared that suggested he wasn't stepping back at all. He might have been moving further in. Just when some viewers wondered whether Brody Barr was becoming less visible, a completely different signal started to emerge, one that longtime YouTube watchers recognize immediately. Instead of fading into the background, he began showing up in moments that suggested even deeper trust. And on a channel like Larson Farms, that kind of shift rarely happens by accident. One of the clearest indicators came through equipment features and brand partnerships. When companies allow someone to represent their products on a working farm, they're not just looking for screen presence, they want credibility. Farming audiences are sharp, they can tell when someone actually knows what they're doing. So when Brody appeared in situations discussing tools, setups, or machinery, it quietly reinforced the idea that both the farm and outside partners saw him as dependable. But there's another side to this that most people overlook. Greater visibility doesn't just bring opportunity. It brings expectation. The more viewers recognize you, the more every decision feels watched. Farming already carries real-world pressure, where timing and precision matter daily. Add an audience on top of that, and the stakes climb even higher. Yet Brody's approach never seemed to change. He stayed steady, focused, and work-driven, the same qualities that likely earned him those responsibilities in the first place. Which leads to a realization many viewers are just starting to pick up on: maybe his importance was never temporary, or it was growing all along. Here's the part most viewers don't immediately see. The real story of Brody Barr may not be about rumors, screen time, or even popularity. It's about something far less obvious, yet far more important: dependability. On an operation like Larson Farms, success isn't built on flashy moments. It's built on people who show up ready, adapt quickly, and handle pressure without needing recognition. Watch closely, and a pattern becomes clear. When timelines tighten and conditions turn unpredictable, certain individuals naturally become the ones everyone leans on. Not because they demand authority, but because their track record makes the decision easy. Brody carries that exact presence. Calm when things speed up, focused when challenges appear, and consistent when long days start stacking together. Those traits don't always grab headlines, but inside a working farm, they're incredibly valuable. What makes this even more interesting is how it reshapes the so-called mystery around him. Maybe the channel never felt the need to spell out his role because, internally, it was already understood. Farms often operate on trust rather than titles, and respect tends to grow through action, not announcements. And there's a subtle leadership signal hidden in all of this. You don't have to be the loudest voice to influence how a team runs. Sometimes leadership simply looks like reliability, which raises a bigger question viewers can't help but wonder. If Brody is already this essential, what does his future at the farm look like? So when you step back and look at the bigger picture, the story of Brody Barr isn't really about mystery. It's about quiet impact. On Larson Farms, he never needed a grand introduction to prove his value. Instead, it showed through trust, responsibility, and the moments that mattered most. While viewers often focus on machines and harvests, it's people like Brody who help keep everything moving when the pressure is highest. And maybe that's the real takeaway for it. Sometimes the most important roles aren't the loudest ones. So, as the farm continues to grow, one question naturally lingers. Are we watching the rise of someone even more central to its future?